next speaker up is Mark Alexander. He's the CEO and founder of Efficient Exercise. It's a company that's been around for about 12 years. He's also the CEO and founder of ARX Fit, and we're going to get to see how this machine works, which is very exciting. He kind of grew up in the Nautilus heydays. He's got some awesome stuff to share. Help me welcome Mark to the stage.
Hello, everyone, and my counterparts Keith and Skylar did a great job, and I'm just honored to kind of be on a team with them. There is a problem, as I see it, in the health and fitness industry, and it does affect other industries as well. That problem is there's a cloud of information. It's an ever-growing cloud of information, and oftentimes it's conflicting, oftentimes it's BS, and we're here to try to help you understand that it really can be simple, it really can be achieved, and we're not saying that our job is easy because there's a lot of factors that go into helping someone transform their lives. But like Keith just mentioned in the health versus performance talk, it is a simple solution. It doesn't take much intervention to achieve your health goals. And again, the problem really is deciphering through all this and deciding what is best for you. That's where we come in. One major portion of the solution is proper resistance training. I can't emphasize that enough. I'll probably say it several more times, but proper resistance training gives you most bang for the buck, if you will, on your exercise investment. There are many ways to do it, and I'm going to kind of dive into some of those. And part of the solution that we feel and has really helped us in the last couple of years since we've developed it is the ARX technology. Specifically, I'm going to address the ARX Fit Omni today. The reason I'm focusing on the Omni in this particular environment is that we have developed this to be able to have home use. In other words, you can buy this for your home, or we have a commercial version that has a little more bells and whistles, but again, it is applicable and very useful for the home use or in a commercial setting. So, going to try to keep it basic, brief, kind of like our workouts. We know that there, again, are simple solutions to health and fitness. People are trying to sell you something, so they always try to make it a little more complicated. You got to come in 5 times a week. But the goals for the talk today are to know what your exercise focus should be. You need to understand the advantages and disadvantages of various resistance training modalities. And I also want you to fully grasp, at least have a much better understanding of what our ARX, Adaptive Resistance Exercise Technology, is. At least understand it a little bit better, know why it's different without actually having to get your hands on it. But many of you will have the opportunity to play with the toy. We all like shiny toys. So your focus on resistance training. Again, proper resistance training gives you the most metabolic and anatomic improvements and the most bang for your buck. It should be safe, effective, and efficient. That's kind of our motto at Efficient Exercise. If it's safe, if a training program is continually hurting you, I call that wrong. I call that shouldn't be done unless you're trying to, as Keith alluded to earlier with the performance, you're trying to improve your performance of something, well, maybe you're going to risk that injury. For health reasons, it should always be safe. If it's always injuring you, I hear CrossFit, shoulder injuries, whatnot, watch out, just watch out. I'm not saying that it can't work, just be careful. Effective, if it's not getting you marked results over years of training, it's wrong. A lot of programs work for a short period of time, almost anything does. But if you're not continually improving, getting that metabolic currency of lean muscle mass, again, something's probably wrong. And it needs to be efficient. Again, for health benefits, an hour or less a week. With our new technology, 10, 15 minutes a week, you really don't need very much if you're doing it in the right way. So again, if I can't emphasize it enough, focus on proper resistance training. Skylar alluded to strength training. Only reason I've started to adopt resistance training is with a new technology. When you say strength or weight training, technically this is resistance training because we've developed a new type of resistance. Not that something hasn't been done before, I don't want to lay claim to something that really there's nothing new under the sun. People always try to lay claim to I invented this or that, but what we're doing is we're adapting it into a way that makes it accessible, and we hopefully can reach a broad swath of people, especially, again, specifically here with the Omni, because we're trying to make it affordable and accessible with this proper resistance training. So again, focus on Malibu Mark, what he tells you to eat, and then focus on proper resistance training, and you're pretty much golden. Yes, there are things that come up, there are life events that come up, stressors, whatnot, injuries, but in general, proper safe resistance training and a paleo-primal centered diet really gets you a long way. So just to dive into some of the various modalities of resistance training, you have free weights, you have body weights, you have machine-based protocols, Nautilus machines that, again, I grew up with, very influential in how I think. But just understand there are inherent inefficiencies within each one of those systems. Almost anything can work. Again, we can't stress that enough. We do use different tools at Efficient Exercise, for example. But again, just understand they're inefficient in various ways. You know, for example, body weight. Maybe it works for a little while, but most people progress pretty quickly where body resistance exercise is not going to be sufficient stimulus to produce the metabolic and anatomic changes that you really want. You might get better at climbing a tree, but that's not going to necessarily make those improvements that most people are desiring. You also, again, can waste a lot of time. I've seen powerlifting routines that take an hour and a half, and you know, most of that is warm-up. And it's just true. You have to load those plates on, and you have to take them off, and you have to figure out your percentages and what you're doing that day. So again, it can work for specific goals, but there's a lot of wasted time in there. Also, you know, there's been a lot of work, give credit where credit's due. Arthur Jones and Nautilus really did a lot of work to kind of fight against some of these improper biomechanics, leverage advantages and things within free weights, and created the Nautilus Cam. Beautiful design, again, influential in how I think about you know, machine design. Even that, though, with this type of technology can become a pursuit that is really a moot point now. Can you use a Nautilus and perfectly designed cam? Of course, and it works well. We've used that for years at Efficient Exercise. I know Dr. McGuff is in here, and he uses MedX and super slow machines as well. Of course that can work. Again, but what I'm trying to tell you is there are inefficiencies, and if you're designing a perfect cam, for example, who is that for? It's usually designed around averages, maybe someone 5'9", 180 pounds. What about the 6'7" basketball player? What about the 5'1" female? What about long limbs, short limbs? Even with an adjustable cam, you still have those constraints. So, you know, we're taking that out. How does the Omni and ArxFit technology really address that? The Omni specifically addresses some of that through, again, the adaptive nature of it. The system is designed to adapt to the user, not selecting a predetermined weight, and hopefully that is right for set amount of time or effort. There's also, again, kind of going into the various modalities, you have kind of schools of thoughts, kind of a continuum, if you will, of ultra-constrained versus outright mimicry of movements. We're hopeful to find kind of that balance in between. And what I mean by that is the ultra-constrained thought is you isolate every muscle group, you get in with 2 belts and a neck pillow, and you know, you're very much locked in. Unless you're a fighter pilot, you don't really encounter that type of constraint any other time. There are some values to that, especially in rehab environments. But in real life, we find that over-constraining mentality is not quite right. Nor do we feel like outright mimicking, you know, certain movements. Specifically, you see it all the time with a golf swing or a baseball bat where they're adding resistance to it. That's actually been debunked. You know, a weighted bat is still used. You see it all the time, and it actually can make your swing slower. People just have gotten ingrained, like much of the health and fitness world, you know, in certain habits. Those habits might not be the most efficient. We're here to, again, try to help you decipher and make good decisions based on what we know from science. The Omni also has a freedom of movement. So that's kind of the hopeful balance, if you will, between the ultra-constrained, isolating type of environments versus, mimicking certain movements. For example, humeral abduction, moving the arm in, is one of the major functions of the pectoral muscle. So if you press and also converge the hands, you'll better engage the chest. Most people are familiar with the bench press. Yes, it works the pecs, and yes, it works the triceps, but if you are able to finish like this, you have a slight more bit of pectoral contraction. So the Omni can do that. The Omni also has the ability to kind of find your sweet spot, if you will. If you kind of like a dipping or decline movement, if you kind of like a subtle incline, you can go with that. Whereas even machines that do that, the Med-X chest press comes to mind, you're still in one plane. You can change the seat and whatnot, but again, you're still in the plane that it fixes you in. The biggest reason that we went for this design and this new technology is efficiency. I'm an efficiency fanatic. I try to work out just minutes a week. I have a family, have much more important things than spending a lot of time in the gym. Usually, we find that everyone comes to a point in their life where they ask why, and they seek efficiency in a lot of ways, but I'll address just the exercise way. Sometimes that comes from an injury. Again, I mentioned CrossFit. We see CrossFitters that come in to see Keith or Skylar. My shoulder never gets better. Well, no shit. You're, fucking it up when you're doing your CrossFit. And so, that's one thing that we see quite a bit. Lack of results. You see these people reading the bro science bodybuilding magazines, and you've got people not seeing results from 6 or 7 days a week training. I mean, come on, what's going on? And then you also, again, just have real life happening, whether it's relationships, whether it's kids, whether it's profession. A lot of things get in the way, if you will, of training. That's not a bad thing. You just need to seek the efficient manner of training and the proper manner of training so that then all that is maximized. I find nothing wrong with trying to make money. But if you're training, 25 hours a week, where's your opportunity to be in this capitalist society?